students. So I am Roshni from Learner Hub, the free learning platform where you get to learn physics, chemistry, maths, biology, geography, political science absolutely for free at learnerhub.com. So today's agenda is the fourth video of the video series on magnetic effects of current, class 10 science, and in this video we are specifically going to talk about the concept of electromagnetic induction and Faraday's experiment. Needless to say, this is a very important concept and is going to be useful in your higher classes as well. So be attentive. So far we saw that a current carrying conductor can produce magnetic field, right? That's what we saw. Now we want to know whether the vice versa is true or not, whether a magnetic field can produce electric current or not. How does a magnetic field produces electric current? Now let us look at some of the important applications of electromagnetic induction which we come across in our lives. For example, you would have heard of the induction cooker, right? The induction cooker or the induction stove, with which you are very familiar these days, right? Not only that, the electric generator, these electric trains, there are kind of electromagnetic torches. Besides that, you also have wireless charging which is developing these days. These days you even see that you do not really need wires to charge your devices. For example, to charge your mobile phones and all those things. So all these things happen, or they are all possible because of the phenomenon of electromagnetic induction. Now we will see what exactly is electromagnetic induction in this lesson. So it was a scientist named Faraday who performed certain experiments and found that even magnetic field is capable of producing electric current. So what were the experiments which he performed? He performed a series of experiments. So the first experiment which he performed was that he took a coil and he took a magnet. Now he observed that as the magnet is brought near the coil, as the magnet is brought towards the coil, there was a deflection in the galvanometer. So here if you see, in this coil, there is no source of current. So there is no battery in this circuit to produce current. But as the magnet is brought towards the coil, there is a deflection in galvanometer. And also as the magnet is taken away from the coil, the deflection in the galvanometer is in the opposite direction. Again, he observed that he reverses the north and south pole of the magnet. Same deflection effects were observed but in opposite direction. For example, right now the north pole is facing towards the coil, right? So what is happening when it is coming near, the deflection is occurring in this direction. But he observed that if he reverses the north pole and south pole and bring it near, then the deflection will happen in this direction. So if we reverse the north and south pole, the deflection also get reversed. When the magnet is brought nearer, and when it is taken away, again in that case the deflection gets reversed. So what did he observe? I mean, his conclusion from this observation was that relative motion between magnet and coil induced electric current in the coil. So he said that it is because of the relative motion between the magnet and the coil that electric current was induced. Now the question was, how can current be induced by motion of objects due to relative motion between objects? Okay, so this was just the first part of the experiment. Okay, he also observed that if he moved the magnet fast, then the deflection was more. That means it also depended on the speed with which the magnet was coming towards or going away from the coil. Now in the second experiment, what did he do? He replaced the magnet with another coil. So there was already one coil was present with a galvanometer. Now instead of the magnet, he took another coil, but now this coil has a battery connected to it. That means there is a current flowing through this coil, right? So now we have a current carrying coil and another coil which is not carrying current. Now what was observed? As this coil was brought near as the second coil was brought near the first coil, deflection was observed and the effects were similar to the previous experiment. That means in this case also, if we moved the coil faster, the deflection was more. When the coil was brought nearer and when it was taken away from it, the deflections were in the opposite direction. So what did he observe from this? He observed that relative motion between two coils induces electric current. Right? So now he performed this experiment with a coil. So in this third experiment, he took both the coils. Now he did not move any of the coils. Both the coils were stationary. So what did he do? In the second setup where he had a battery attached to the coil, he kept it switched off. Right now it was switched off, and he saw that there was no deflection in this coil. But to his surprise, he observed that the moment he switched it on, there was a deflection in this galvanometer. That means there was no relative motion between the two coils, right? But the moment it was switched on, there was a current which passed through this coil, and as a result, there was a deflection in this galvanometer. So the deflection in this galvanometer shows that there was a current which had flown through this coil, right? But again, what he did, he saw that when the switch was kept on for a long time, there was no deflection. Again, when he released the switch, the moment he released the switch, again he saw that there was some deflection. So that means there was a momentary deflection which was observed the moment the switch was on or the switch was off. But when it was switched on or switched off continuously for a long time, again there was no deflection. So from this he concluded that relative motion is not an absolute requirement for inducing current. So one thing became clear, that current was getting induced in this coil. Now how was the current getting induced? That was the question which was still undiscovered. So now let us look at what actually was happening. The current was getting induced not because of the motion of the coil or motion of the magnet. It was because of something else. So what is that something else? So based on these three experiments performed by Faraday, he gave his two laws of induction, which are known as Faraday's first law and Faraday's second law. So he gave the first law, in which he stated that an EMF is induced in the circuit whenever the amount of magnetic flux linked with a circuit changes. So that means what he tried to say was that we say that now when will this galvanometer show a deflection? When a current flows through the circuit. When will a current flow through the circuit? When there is a potential difference in this circuit, right? So induced EMF has to be there to produce induced current. I will not discuss in detail about EMF because this is something which we will discuss in our higher classes. So induced current will be there in this circuit whenever the amount of magnetic flux linked with the circuit changes. So now you have a new term here. What is magnetic flux? Magnetic flux is nothing but number of magnetic lines per unit area. So number of magnetic field lines per unit area. So this is a bar magnet, so you will have magnetic field lines in this fashion, right? So the moment you move this magnet nearer to the coil, what happens? The magnetic lines of force entering this wire increases. So therefore the amount of magnetic flux linked with this circuit changes, and as a result EMF is induced and current is induced in the coil. Similarly, when you take this magnet away from this, again the number of magnetic lines linked with this circuit, it decreases. As a result, a change in magnetic flux happens and therefore an EMF is induced and a current flows through this circuit, or a current is induced in this circuit. So the current is induced. What is the factor that is responsible for the induction of current? It is the number of magnetic field lines. So now with this logic, you can explain all the three experiments which were performed by Faraday. So this was the first experiment. What did he do in the second experiment? In the second experiment, he had a current carrying conductor, right? So now when that current carrying conductor also produced a magnetic field around itself. So when you bring that current carrying conductor near this coil, the number of magnetic field lines entering the coil increases, so that there is a change in magnetic flux and that results in induced current. Similarly, in the third experiment, something interesting happened. You did not move the circuit at all. When you switched on the circuit, what happened? Current flowed through the circuit. So when current flows through the circuit, magnetic field is produced, When magnetic field is produced, there are some magnetic lines of force which entered this coil, so there was a deflection. But when you kept it switched on for a longer time, the number of magnetic field lines remained the same, because in this case, the number of magnetic field lines is changing because you are moving the magnet. So because of this motion, the number of magnetic field lines associated with this coil is changing. But in the third experiment, since you were not moving it, therefore, when you kept it switched on for a longer time, the number of magnetic field lines remained constant. So there was no change in the number of magnetic field lines, and therefore no current was induced. Again, when you switched off the circuit, the current stopped. There was no current flowing in that circuit. So when the current stopped, the number of magnetic field lines abruptly decreased. Therefore, it again showed a deflection because there was a change in the number of magnetic field lines. So current will be induced when there is a change in the number of magnetic field lines associated with that coil. So this was Faraday's first law of induction. So what did he tell in his second law? In his second law, he told that the magnitude of the induced EMF is equal to the time rate of change of magnetic flux through the circuit. That means the EMF which is induced, that in EMF is often denoted by a small e. This EMF is equal to the rate of change of magnetic flux through the circuit, because this EMF is induced only when there is a change in magnetic flux. Magnetic flux is often denoted by phi. So this is written as d phi by dt. That means how this magnetic flux is changing with time. This will determine the magnitude of the induced EMF. Now, if we know the magnitude of induced EMF, we can calculate the magnitude of induced current, right? So now you do not need to bother much about this magnitude of induced EMF. I just wanted to explain you what is electromagnetic induction. So what is electromagnetic induction? It is nothing but induction of electric current due to magnetic field associated with a different circuit. And also it was told that this induced EMF will exist as long as the change in flux continues. The moment the change in flux is gone, the EMF will also go. So please remember that if you have a change in flux, so change in flux is an important term. Change in flux would mean change in number of magnetic field lines. So change in flux gives rise to induced current. Now there are various methods by which we can produce induced EMF. What are the different methods of induced EMF? By varying magnetic field. If we change the magnetic field, then the induced EMF will also change, because it obviously depends upon the strength of the magnet. If we use a magnet whose magnetic field is very small, then the current that will be induced will also be small. So by changing the magnetic field, by varying the area, because as I mentioned that induced EMF is nothing but rate of change of magnetic flux per unit area. And what is magnetic flux? It is the number of magnetic lines of force per unit area. So that means if you change the area, you can change the magnetic flux. By changing magnetic flux, you can produce induced EMF. So area will also become a factor to produce induced EMF. By varying relative orientation of coil and the magnetic field. That means the angle between the coil and the magnetic field. As we can see, that also comes from this factor, magnetic flux, because it is magnetic flux is nothing but number of magnetic field lines per unit area. When you try to find out its expression, you see that there is a theta, or there is a theta, that is the angle between the coil and magnetic field involved there. So I'm just touching it off just to give you some information. For detailed information on each of these parameters, that what is the exact magnitude of induced EMF, what is the exact magnitude of induced current, how these factors will actually help to produce induced EMF, you can refer the videos of class 12th on magnetism. Now the question is, how do we know the direction of induced current? So far we understood that electromagnetic induction is a process in which current will get induced in a coil due to the change in magnetic flux associated with some another coil. Now the question is, how do we know the direction of induced current? So for this again we have another rule known as Fleming's right hand rule. We have already studied about Fleming's left hand rule. What was the purpose of Fleming's left hand rule? It helped us to calculate or to determine the direction of the force experienced by a current carrying conductor in magnetic field. Now Fleming's right hand rule will tell us the direction of induced current. So in order to find out the direction of induced current, we use Fleming's right hand rule. So it is similar to Fleming's left hand, just that instead of left hand we will be using the right hand. So here again we stretch all our three fingers, the first finger, middle finger and the thumb. Now in this case we say that if our first finger represents the direction of magnetic field and our thumb represents the direction of motion of the conductor, then the current is represented by the middle finger.
I hope you found the video useful. If you have a feedback to share, do not forget to write in the comment section. We would be more than happy to hear from you. And if you really found the video useful, do not forget to share it with your friends as well. I will meet you all very soon with a new video, with a new topic. Till then, stay home, stay safe, take care, bye-bye.